In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a pendant using an impression die and a pre-made tube setting. This 5mm tube setting is from Rio Grande, and I have a little hummingbird impression from a Potter USA impression die. So I'm going to set these up here on my fire brick for soldering, and because my tube setting is so much taller than the hummingbird, I'm going to go ahead and press it down into my fire brick a little so that the hummingbird is soldered like midway up the tube setting rather than all the way down at the bottom. And this will just make it so that there's not such a big height difference between the two visually. So I've got it set up here. I'm adding flux at the joints. And I'm going to go ahead and solder where the tail comes into contact with the tube setting and also the beak. So first I just like to heat up my flux, kind of burn off the liquid, and heat until the flux kind of mellows out a little bit. And once the flux turns clear and glassy, that's when I like to add my little solder chips. So I'm going to go ahead and add one here where the tail comes into contact with the tube. And I'm just placing it right next to the joint where the two come together. And then I'm going to heat evenly until the solder flows. And then I'm also going to solder it at the top of the bird where the beak comes into contact with the tube. And I'm going to just repeat the same process, add a little solder ball right at that joint where the two come into contact with each other, and then just heat until the solder flows. And it kind of flowed to the bird and not the tube, so I'm just using the tip of my tweezers kind of as a solder pick to draw the solder and kind of pull it where I want it to go. And now I'm ready to pickle this. Okay, this has come out of the pickle nice and clean. I have my two solder joints. They look good. And so now I'm going to set it back up here, and I'm going to push it down into the fire brick to make sure the hummingbird is supported. And I'm going to add a little jump ring at the top. And I could have done this all in one step, so I only was soldering one time. But I kind of wanted to make sure I knew how it was going to hang, so I just decided to solder it in two steps. Okay, so I'm just placing the jump ring here, and then I'm going to add some solder and heat until it flows and joins the jump ring to the hummingbird impression. Doesn't take a lot of heat. These are very small pieces I'm working with here. Okay, and then I'll pickle it. So this has come out of the pickle. It's nice and clean. All the solder joints look good. And I'm ready for the stone. So I have here just a 5mm CZ. And the nice thing about these pre-made stone settings, the pre-made tube settings, is they already have a seat cut in them. So you do need to check the fit of your stone, make sure the setting isn't too tall or too short. But this one looks really good. So I'm just going to go ahead and polish up the inside of that setting before I set the stone. And you just want to make sure that the seat that's cut in there is tall enough to come over the girdle of the stone. You don't want it to be super tall and cover up a lot of the face of the stone. You just want it to be tall enough to hold it in place. And so I have these bezel setting punches, and I'm just going to choose a size that fits comfortably over the tube. And they come in a variety of sizes, and they're basically just like a concave dome. And what they do is they compress the top of that tube setting down over the stone all at once. And so this set comes with a little wooden handle, and you can insert the punch into the wooden handle. But I am just going to use it with a hammer since this is a CZ and it's pretty tough. If I was using a softer stone, I would definitely be a lot more careful, and I would use the little wooden handle and do this by hand. But I'm just going to give it a few good taps, and it's just going to compress the top of that bezel, the top of that tube, over the girdle of the stone. And it does it all very evenly and smooth because of the shape of that punch. And that's it. This is the finished necklace with a little bit of polish and patina, and it's beautiful and it's quick and it's easy, and it's a great way to dress up your little impressions.